Greetings and welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending Hayman Park CERT's first of 5 Personal Emergency Preparedness Bites, or PEP Bites as we're calling them. Today's 30-minute bite is a wake-up call on earthquakes, what to have ready before, key things to remember to do during, and some tips for what to do after. The curriculum that follows has been gleaned from Santa Clara County Fire's 3-hour PEP class, also free, and the Disaster Ready Guide on the Listos, California website. Both of those links will include at the end as well. The format for today is as follows. Our 30-minute presentation, broken down into before, during, and after an earthquake. Then an optional 15-minute Q&A for anyone who wishes to stay after. And finally, a concise document with all the links and pertinent points that we mentioned in this session. We'll send those to the emails that you registered with for this Eventbrite session. So you don't have to write everything down as we're going. I know that can be distracting sometimes. You can just pay full attention and you'll get all the links and stuff, all the programs that we talk about at the end. In the interest of time and flow, all participants will be muted while the presentation is taking place until the Q&A session at the end. So 30 minutes of only the presenters talking, and then we'll do Q&A and unmute everyone. Please write down your questions in either the chat section of the Zoom screen, or if you prefer, write them down on paper where you are and then just save them till that Q&A session at the end. We'll do our best to answer everything, or we'll refer you to the resource that has the answer. So let's shake off the dust and jump right in. If you've experienced a major earthquake, you're acutely aware that having a few key things squared away before a big earthquake makes a big difference in how comfortable and safe you'll be when the dust settles. Taking just 5 steps ahead of time also takes some of the anxiety out of the unknowns for when the next earthquake will strike. Those 5 steps are: sign up to be in the know, make a plan for several scenarios, pack a go bag if you have to leave quickly, or a stay box if you can hunker down where you live, and then help neighbors and friends by sharing these points with them. Let's briefly elaborate on those. First off, getting alerts. There are several ways to be alerted before and after an earthquake in our community. One way is go to calalerts.org. You can see on the slide, there's a screenshot of a little web page. That's the front of calalerts.org. You go there, you click sign up, which you can see is circled in red in one of the top upper right corner areas. Then you click on which county you live or work in, and it takes you right to the sign up for that area, because every county has different signups, different alert services. If you live in Santa Clara County, it's Alert SCC, so it'll route you to Alert SCC. And then you'll get those updates on your phone. Also, there are Weas, wireless emergency alerts. Those are actually built into your phone. So a lot of times they'll have, like, you go to Verizon or AT&T to get your phone set up, and they'll have it defaulted to turning those off. Or sometimes they're defaulted on and you get irritated by them after a while and you turn them off yourself. Well, if you want those reinstated, you can Google it for what your phone type is, and that you want Weas enabled, and it tells you step by step how to do it, or go to your retail phone site and they'll help you. And that's like how you get Amber Alerts on your phone. That's a Wea, an example of a Wea. For radio, save these presets in your car radio. For AM stations, it's 530, 740, or 810 AM. For FM radio, it's 88.5. Also, there's the MyShake app for early earthquake alerts. So sometimes you might get like a 15-second warning that an earthquake has been detected and it's going towards your area. That might give you just enough time to get away from the big old bookcase that isn't that isn't attached to the wall, So even little updates like that can be really helpful. 2 other apps that you might find useful are the Citizen app or the Nextdoor app. That's how you can get word on the street. Where's the damage in your area? What are people hearing that the magnitude was? Where are people hearing their shelters to go to? Things like that. That's Citizen or Nextdoor. Those are both on your cell phones that you can download on the App Store. Also, save 211 in your phone as a catch-all after disaster. You can dial 211 and then you can get help with a variety of needs. For instance, like right now, if you call 211, they have a ton of COVID resources, getting tested, where to get vaccinated, how to sign up. So they just take whatever is in the local community that will need addressing, and they try to have all the resources there for you. So save 211. All right, make a plan. We have 2 slides for this one. First, in an emergency, phones can get smashed, they can run out of battery, and no one really memorizes phone numbers anymore. So do yourself a favor, make a short, typed, or handwritten list of important phone numbers for you. Laminate it, put it in your wallet or purse or in your go bag, and make sure to have at least one contact out of state. That way, presumably that's outside of the earthquake area or the disaster area that you're in. Somebody will still have intact phone lines, so you can hopefully get some message to them that you're okay, or that you're not and you need help. Designate that person with your group as the check-in person in case you get separated from your group, and discuss that this is the plan with your group. That means either your family or your circle. Because what good do these phone numbers really do if you don't have a plan for what to do with them in an emergency? All right, secondly, pre-plan your exit strategy and designate meeting places ahead of time. Make a list today of your must-grab items that aren't already in your go bag, like a family heirloom or a certain photo album, that sort of thing, just in case you aren't able to go back to your home after you leave. Plan how you will ensure your pet's safety and exit plan too, and discuss this plan with your people. So for instance, okay, if an earthquake happens while I'm at work, plan A is we're gonna all text each other in a group text to check in and decide our next move. Plan B, in case we don't hear from someone in our group, is to get home and we all meet at the mailboxes. Kids, if you're at school, when an earthquake happens, stay with the adult in charge there until one of us comes to pick you up. If me or dad can't get to you, our secret safety password, if we send someone to get you, is Skittles or whatever, right? Let's practice what that scenario will look like. That kind of thing. You can't just make a plan in your head and not tell the people that you have in the plan, right? Earthquakes can be disorienting. So formulate that plan with your people and practice it. Practice may not make perfect, but it will improve your odds of doing the key points you thoughtfully pre-planned when the situation actually happens. Some extra credit items. There are small ways to earthquake-proof your home, whether you own or rent, that will go a long way towards reducing injury and property damage. Google things like earthquake straps for bookcases, earthquake putty for knickknacks, earthquake gas shutoff. Google any of those phrases, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff pop up to help you think of ways to actually pre-plan and prepare. Know where your water and gas shutoffs are and your electrical box, where they're located. Maybe call your water district or energy provider on your lunch break sometime and ask if they offer tutorials on how to shut off your utilities in an emergency and which utilities you should never turn back on. Gas, never turn back on your gas. Making yourself aware of the basic amenities in your home and how they may be affected in an earthquake and what you can do yourself will work wonders for your self-esteem and your preparedness. The other extra credit on this slide is to call your insurance company and inquire about whether your current plan covers earthquake damage. You'll be surprised that you thought it did and maybe it actually specifically does not. So take pictures of your possessions periodically, update your renter's insurance amount as you upgrade TVs, sound systems. If you hit a brick wall figuring out insurance stuff, check out uphelp.org for guides on buying disaster insurance in your area and even navigating claims after something has happened. This is really worth doing before a disaster, so we suggest making it a priority. 3, pack a go bag. It's a good idea to have a go bag already packed and sitting near the front door when a disaster strikes. The purpose of this bag is to tide you over if you have to evacuate and stay at a shelter, motel room, a friend's house, etc. for a few days. So close your eyes. Visualize yourself sitting on a cot in an evacuation shelter after a big earthquake. What items would you wish you'd packed in your go bag to tide you over for a week? We are talking mostly non-food and non-beverage items here, folks. Phone charger's probably one for most of us, right? What else would you reach for and wish you had? Bonus points if you keep one bag at your workplace or in the car too, out of sight. You know, I don't want to encourage break-ins, because if you can't get to your home after a disaster for whatever reason, you still will want a go bag. For more tips on building an awesome go bag, check out the disaster ready guide at listoscalifornia.org or campbellcert.org/get-ready. Building a stay box. If you don't have to evacuate your home immediately following a disaster, it's hard to know which utilities will still be in working order in the aftermath. Plan to have enough supplies for at least the first 72 hours during the event, following the event. 3 days. That means water for hygiene and hydration, non-perishable food, don't forget the pets, battery packs and cables for phones, entertainment, flashlights or lanterns, your Jumanji board game, whatever. For extra credit, after you've secured 3 days worth of supplies, go ahead and bump it up to a whole week's worth. Tape a note to the lid of your box, your go box, with the expiration dates for the non-perishable items you put in there, so you don't have to pull it all out once a year to check manually. And finally, help friends and neighbors prepare too. Once you have your household squared away for the next disaster, reach out to your neighbors and friends and coworkers and see if they need a nudge to finish taking the 4 above steps we just discussed. If you need any help getting started or finding resources, Hayman Park CERT is very happy to light the way. Email us anytime. We look forward to chatting with you. And now Nicole will take what to do during.
I have requested control. Okay, hi, I'm Mikal Cletus and I'm a part of Campbell CERT, and I'm going to talk to you about what to do during an earthquake. Oops, do I have control? Oh, I'm getting that funny sound.
Try to request control again, Nicole.
Okay, the option is, okay, I've requested, okay, oops. I'm hoping it's working, otherwise one of you can just do this for me. Okay, so what to do during an earthquake? The most important thing if you're indoors is to really drop down to the floor, cover your head and body underneath a sturdy piece of furniture like a desk, and just hold on tight. And that's what drop, cover, hold is all about. Remember that, drop, cover, hold, and that should be something that you carry with you when you're indoors. And the other thing you want to make sure of is when you're dropping, cover, and holding on, that you're not doing this near a doorway, near windows. You want to make sure this heavy piece of furniture that you're getting under, like a desk, is away from outside walls as far as possible. If you don't have any piece of furniture near you, go against an inner wall and crouch down near that. And if you happen to be in bed, stay in bed and put a pillow over your head to cover your head, and perhaps use your covers to cover your body. The most important thing while you're indoors is to pay attention that you're not under or near any heavy pieces of furniture that have a risk of falling down, like tall shelving, any kind of cabinets in a kitchen. If you're in the kitchen, you want to turn off that stove. And if you happen to be unable to drop down for any physical impairment, or you're just unable to, if you happen to be on a heavy couch, keep sitting on that couch, and just stay in there, on that couch until the shaking stops. If you happen to be in a wheelchair, just lock the wheelchair wheels and ensure that there are any loose pieces of items on the wheelchair are thrown away from you so that you don't potentially hurt yourself. The main thing is, if you're indoors, stay indoors. Don't rush out. Okay, going to the next slide. What to do if you happen to be outdoors. If you happen to be outdoors, please avoid, if you happen to be on your way outdoors, avoid elevators. You definitely want to use stairs. Go to an open space, preferably a public space, away from any structures, utility poles, wires. If you happen to be at the coast, you want to head up at least 100 feet above the shore, or walk towards away from the coast, at least 2 miles away to be in safety. Do not drive. And if you happen to be driving, reduce speed, pull over, avoid any bridges or overpasses, underpasses. They may collapse or run risk of collapse. You may see sinkholes develop on the road, so it's really not safe to drive. So we will highly encourage that you pull over and stop. Stay in the car until the shaking stops. And if you happen to be in public transportation, follow the guidance that you're receiving in that public transport. But most important, for example, if you happen to be seated on a train, or follow instructions very similar to what you hear in an airplane. You know, crouch down and on your seat, you know, put your head towards your lap and cover your head with your hands. You want to make sure you're protecting your head and neck whenever you're in such scenarios, so that you reduce chances of injury when the event is happening. Okay, moving to the next slide. Some of the things to avoid. As we said, indoors, you want to stay away from any glass, doorways. Doorways may seem like a safe place because it allows you to get away and out. They can collapse on you, so you do want to stay away from them. Stay away from chimneys. Chimneys can collapse. Stay away from any tall, unsecured furniture and any outer walls, because they may collapse as well. And if you happen to be outdoors, you want to be in wide public open spaces as far as possible, away from structures, away from tsunami hazard zones, away from bridges, underpasses, and overpasses. And this is also a good time while the earthquake's going through to start thinking about the plans you've made before. Ashley talked about a lot of that, and those are all the things that you want to pay attention to. When the shaking stops when you're indoors and it feels safe, you may want to head out to make sure that your building is safe, but move away from the building. And obviously, if you see a fire develop, you do want to rush out, unless the fire is one that you can put out safely. Okay, that's it.
Hello, and I'm going to go over what to do right after an earthquake. So right after an earthquake, just know that we might not have power or water for a few days. So you won't have power. There's a 56% chance, we're right at the San Andreas Fault, that you won't have power for a day, 32% chance you won't have power for 3 days, and a almost 15% chance you won't have power for a week. And in terms of water, there's a 60% chance you won't have water for 1 to 3 days, no water, or a 58% chance for a week, and almost 50% chance you won't have it for a month. So it's always good to be prepared, because there is a chance that you won't have power or water for a while. And the big question is, should I stay or should I go? If you have heavy structural damage, and I'll go over to the next slide, hear or smell gas, or if there's fire bigger than a trash can, you can't fight it, you have to get out. So structural damage, it's not safe to stay, the building might collapse. If you hear or smell gas, or if there's a fire, if it's big, don't try to fight it, just get out. So structural damage, heavy damage means it's damaged at the foundation and the building might collapse. It should be pretty obvious. It's that the building, you can see the picture that's right off the foundation, it looks like it might collapse. Moderate damage, you can see like the porch might be falling, so part of the house might be collapsed, not the whole house. You don't want to stay for too long, especially if you might, the things might change. You don't want to stay for too long, but it's a little bit safer. And light damage, it might look like it's heavily damaged, like books might be all over the place, like in this picture. Might have broken windows, some cracks on the wall, but it's actually safe to stay in a light damaged place. So moderate, you don't want to stay too long. Heavy, just get out right away. Communications. Ashley went over this before. If you need to evacuate, hopefully you can stay with the family, or you can call 211, tune in on the radio station, or you'll get alerts. So these might not be up right away after an earthquake, but once they come up, they'll tell you where you can go to find shelter. If you're staying, hopefully you have your stay box ready. So it's 3 days worth of food for 3 days worth of supplies for every member of the household. This includes lighting, batteries, games, medicine, trash bags. Make sure that you're keeping good hygiene, all of that ready. Hopefully up to a week is great, but at least have enough things for everyone in your family for 3 days. So if you have all the stuff that you need and it's safe to stay, you can stay. Water is the big one. You can survive without food for a while. You need water right away. Within 3 days, you will die of dehydration. You don't have water. So water is really important to have. So you need 1 gallon of water per person per day. This includes your pets. And water expires. Water itself doesn't expire, but the containers in it expires or can go pretty stale. So it can only be stored up to 6 months. So constantly cycle through whatever you have in storage to make sure that it's still good in case of emergency that you can use it. In case you do not have the water, what you can do is sometimes you can, well, first to store your water, if you're using tap water, then you can add 2 drops of regular bleach to 1 gallon. If you need to purify your water, there's multiple ways to do that. You can either boil it for 1 minute, make sure you have a good boiling boil. You can use commercial purification tablets, or you can use a household bleach to clear it up. And this is the water that you find. Make sure that you're using bleach for it. If it's really murky, you'd have to double the amount of bleach. And if you don't, if it doesn't have that chlorine smell, add more bleach, half as much the second time, and then wait 15 to 30 minutes afterwards to smell it. And if it's still not good after that, just toss it. It's not worth risking it. So ensure that if you don't have water, first, make sure, hopefully you can have water, you can store your tap water tables on the side. And if you don't have water, you can purify it and make sure that you're following the right guidelines to how to purify it. And a drop is really small. There is roughly 100 drops in a teaspoon. And so hopefully you have a dropper prepared in your stay kit so you know how to measure your chlorine. Other sources of water, you can melt ice cubes. This is good practice to have to keep some water in your freezer. You can melt ice cubes. You can also use water in the water heater. As long as you turned off your water supply, it can stay there and won't shuffle back. So you can use our water in your toilet tank, not your bowl, in your tank. The water in the toilet tank is clean, as long as the toilet tank itself is being kept clean. So those are other sources of water if you didn't pack enough. Some things to watch out for: downed power lines. Make sure you stay 100 feet back. In case of earthquake, fallen trees, the power lines can also fall and they might still be active, and you can potentially die if you get too close. So stay back, call 911, and keep others away from it. Never turn off your gas without professional support. You need it, and you can never turn it back on either without professional guidance. So make sure you seek professional guidance if you don't know how to do that before an earthquake. And never connect your generator back to the grid without professional support either. If you're doing it wrong and you connect it back to the grid, well, if someone is working on the power lines to get it back up, you can potentially kill them by shocking them. So do not connect your generator back to the grid. So don't connect it if you don't know how to do that before the emergency. And that's it for what to do after an emergency. Please stay tuned for our next PEP Bite, and then Ashley will talk more about that, and it will be May 1st.